Chapter 155. Jesus recognizes the justice of paying secular taxes. He teaches a lesson on family relationships in the life beyond. The greatest of the commandments is comprised in love. He warns his disciples against the hypocrisy of scribes and Pharisees. As Jesus spoke, the Pharisees came up to question him. They thought to criminate him by what he said. A strict Herodian spoke and said, "My Lord, you are a man of truth. You show the way to God, and you do not regard the personality of men. Tell us, what do you think? Should we, who are the seed of Abraham, pay tribute unto Caesar, or should we not?" And Jesus knew his wickedness of heart and said, "Why do you come to tempt me thus? Show me the tribute money that you speak about." The man brought forth a piece of coin on which an image was engraved. And Jesus said, "Whose image and whose name is on this coin?" The man replied, "It is Caesar's image and his name." And Jesus said, "Give unto Caesar that which is Caesar's own, but give to God the things of God." And they who heard him said, "He answers well." And then a Sadducee, who thinks there is no resurrection of the dead, came up and said, "Rabboni, Moses wrote that if a married man shall die and have no child, his widow shall become his brother's wife. Now, there were 7 brothers, and the eldest had a wife. He died and had no child. A brother took his widow for his wife, and then he died. And every brother had this woman for his wife. In course of time, the woman died. Now, which will have this woman for a wife in the resurrection day?" And Jesus said, "Here in this plane of life, men marry just to gratify their selfish selves, or to perpetuate the race. But in the world to come, and in the resurrection day, men do not take upon themselves the marriage vows. But, like the angels and the other sons of God, they form not unions for the pleasure of the self, nor to perpetuate the race. Death does not mean the end of life. The grave is not the goal of men, no more than is the earth the goal of seeds. Life is the consequence of death. The seed may seem to die, but from its grave the tree arises into life. So man may seem to die, but he lives on, and from the grave he springs up into life. If you could comprehend the word that Moses spoke about the burning bush that burned and still was not consumed, then you would know that death cannot destroy the life. And Moses said that God is God of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Israel. God is not God of dead men's bones, but of the living man. I tell you, men, man goes down to the grave, but he will rise again and manifest the life. For every life is hid with Christ in God, and man shall live while God shall live. The Pharisees and scribes who heard the Lord exclaimed, "He speaks the truth," and they were glad to have the Sadducees discomfited. And then an honest scribe came forth and said to Jesus, "Lord, you speak as one whom God has sent. And may I ask, which is the greatest and the first of the commandments of the law?" And Jesus said, "The first is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, with all your strength. And you shall love your neighbor as yourself. These are the greatest of the 10, and on them hang the law, the prophets, and the Psalms." The scribe replied, "My soul gives witness that you speak the truth, for love fulfills the law, and far transcends burnt offerings and sacrifice." And Jesus said to him, Lo, you have solved the mystery. You are within the kingdom, and the kingdom is in you. To his disciples Jesus spoke, and all the people heard. He said, Beware you of the scribes and Pharisees who pride themselves in wearing long and richly decorated robes, and love to be saluted in the marketplace, and seek the highest seats at feasts, and take the hard-earned wages of the poor to satisfy their carnal selves, and pray in public, long and loud. These are the wolves who clothe themselves to look like sheep. And then he said to all, The scribes and Pharisees are placed by law in Moses' seat, and by the law they may interpret law. So what they bid you do, that do, but do not imitate their deeds. They say the things that Moses taught. They do the things of Beelzebul. They talk of mercy, yet they bind on human shoulders burdens grievous to bear. They talk of helpfulness, and yet they put not forth the slightest helpful efforts for their brother man. They make a show of doing things, and yet they do not anything but show their gaudy robes and broad phylacteries, and smile when people call them honored masters of the law. They strut about and show their pride when people call them father, and so on. Hear now, you men, call no man father here. The God of heaven and earth, and he alone, is father of the race of men. Christ is the hierarch, the high, exalted master of the sons of men. If you would be exalted, sit down at the master's feet and serve. He is the greatest man who serves the best.